lot of football to get through throughout the show. The Knicks play tonight at Madison Square Garden. They're going to be shorthanded again, and you're starting to get concerned that we're not getting injury updates on OG and Julius. We'll get to that later. But all of us as human beings have something that triggers us. Maybe it's a word, maybe it's a sentence, maybe it's a topic that you just get triggered by. So my trigger thing is that if you ever tell me Johan Santana didn't pitch a no-hitter, I get very triggered. Tiki's learned that very early on working with
Yes, I do. I'll stop doing that, Evan.
Thank you, Tiki. I appreciate it. I've learned that there was Tiki's almost untriggerable, but there was a caller that made this horrible statement that Tiki quit on the Giants by retiring, and that triggered you, rightfully so, by the way.
It's kind of similar to Joe B telling me I don't watch games. The same thing. Go kiss ass.
That's true.
Don't tell me what I am or am not doing.
By the way,
especially if you don't know.
That's right. I know Joe B's trigger. Like if you went to Beningo and said you're not a real Jets fan, that would trigger him. So I know Sean's trigger, and I think today on Tuesday, February 6th is the perfect time to trigger him because I honestly feel this way, and I wonder if Tiki feels this way, and I wonder if the audience feels this way. I love football, but the Super Bowl sucks, and the build-up to the Super Bowl kind of sucks, and the football season really ended a week and a half ago on Champions.
Kiss ass, dude.
But think about it. Everything about this week kind of sucks. The game itself kind of sucks. Like, I'm going to watch it. We're all going to watch it. We'll break it down. But the real football season ended on Championship Sunday. Am I wrong, T?
Well, it feels so. The Super Bowl always feels so disconnected from the regular season. And hear what I'm saying. You start the season, other than the bye week, it's every week. You're just grinding on your team. What did they do well? Do we have a shot? It's over. Or, no, we're pushing to the playoffs. And it's like just building and building and building and building. Then you get to the playoffs, and it's like, man, look at this wild card team. Oh, they won on the road. They go to the divisional round. Then you get to the division round. You get to the championship round. All these things happen, and all of a sudden it's like, all right, now we're going to sit and chill for 2 days. all right, we're good. Just hang out. So, like, there's this emotional momentum that comes during the regular season, builds up to a crescendo, and then gets to the championship round, and then it just ends. It's like, okay, it's over.
And no other sport's like that.
No.
When you get to the World Series, like, you may have to wait if you swept a team, but the other team is playing. Like, it continues, and you're right. And that isn't even, like, my number one reason. So it's interesting from you, as a former player, a guy that went to a Super Bowl.
And I remember that the year we went to the Super Bowl.
Same thing happened, right?
Especially because of how we went. I mean, we destroyed the Minnesota Vikings. I mean, the game was over in 5 minutes, 8 minutes. The game was over. And so after the game, all I could think about was, let's get to the Super Bowl. Let's go kick the hell out of these Ravens. Let's get to the Super Bowl. And then you just wait. And then so many things can happen, good or bad. For us, it was, I don't know, it was melancholy. It felt weird. And so, the extra bye week, I understand why. So everybody gets healthy. It builds more hype. You have time for parties and time for, positioning of both these teams, and the storylines get talked about ad nauseum. I get it. But there's a disconnect from the championship weekend and from Super Bowl Sunday that's hard to, reconcile, especially if your team's not in the game.
No, I get you. And what's funny is, I totally see where you're coming from. Not even my reason for hating this week. Not even my reason for thinking football season ended a week and a half ago. My reason is that this week is about everything but football. A week and a half ago, Championship Sunday was all about winning the AFC title, was all about winning the NFC title. Now it's about glitz and glamour and halftime shows. And oh, by the way, it's not even in the city of a team that's playing in the game. Like the championship game, you fought and you have home field advantage. What's it going to be like walking into Baltimore and dealing with those fans? What's it going to be like walking into San Francisco? Now you go to Vegas. I love football, and yes, Sunday I'll be locked in, but football season ended a week and a half ago. And by the way, now you can respond, because I just wanted to watch him get all bothered by everything Tiki said and everything I said. Hi, Sean.
You are a dip, you know what, and an ass, you know what, okay? Because honestly, Tiki, I get Tiki's point. I hate that there's a bye week and then we lose a little of that momentum. But push come to shove, on Sunday, it's kind of like your birthday. Everybody loves their birthday. This is the football birthday. It's the celebration of everything. You get to sit down and watch, in theory and not always, the two best teams in football that earn the right to get here.
Yeah, and it feels like that
And
this
it feels like that this year, and play, in my opinion, the best of our four major sports at the highest level for the ultimate crown. And it's not like all of a sudden they quit the rules and we don't watch a football game. It's football at its highest level. And in the process, you know what else you can do if your team's not in it? You can dream a little bit. What does my team need to be on this level, the picture there? And on top of it, if you do it right, and I think this is a lot of people's turnoff that you guys didn't even mention.
Oh, I'm going to get there.
You're watching football with the people you watched football all year with, and you're just doing the same thing you do every Sunday, and it's the culmination.
Hold on. That part's not true.
But that's the problem,
No,
man.
that part's not true. And this is a big part of this thing. A lot of people are going to be forced to watch this football game with folks who have not watched football all season long.
Forced?
Good point.
Yeah, forced. Yes, forced.
How are they forced? You're not forced to do anything in this great country. You make a call.
You're married. You know you're forced to do things. Like, don't act like you're
Who are you
loogie
watching
now.
the
Come
Super
on.
Bowl with?
I am watching the Super Bowl with my dad, my
Yeah.
two sisters, their husband and fiance.
And they all love football. And
This
they
is-
all know exactly what's going on.
This is our crew every Sunday. We watch the Giants. We watch Sunday Ticket every Sunday. And guess what happens? My wife, she's watching 1,000-Pound Sisters upstairs. Okay, she'll come down, grab a little piece of Hero, go back upstairs. My kids will check in on what's going on. Maybe they'll come watch the halftime show, and that's it. And whoever didn't watch football with me all year,
See,
you're not welcome to watch the
You're
Super Bowl with me.
living in a world that exists for some, but not for everybody.
You need to establish that world, Ed.
A lot of people are stuck watching this football game with people that haven't watched football all season long. It's all about the commercials, and it's not about the game. So you're in a fortunate situation, but Super Bowl parties exist.
So
I
don't
up
go
at
to them.
But
Don't go to them.
Sean, some people don't have that choice.
What are you talking about? If somebody came to me, and if you're a true, I don't care, you could be a female that loves the game, a man that loves the game, you watch football all year. How is it that you have watched football however you watched it all year, and suddenly you're changing your thing up the Super Bowl?
Because it's the Super Bowl. That's my point.
It's the biggest game
Guys.
in sports.
Guys,
other than the World Cup final,
I
which
can't-
is at MetLife Stadium.
My wife wouldn't do this, but because she doesn't have a sibling. But let's just say my wife said, we're going to my sister's for the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Have fun.
Would you not go?
No, I wouldn't. I would not. I've skipped 50th wedding anniversaries for Giants Bills
You're
in a week
special.
4.
No, you're special. I hand that to you.
You're a different kind of
No,
breed.
but this
all
shit-
of your friends, are they the same way?
Yes, we all are watching football with those who watch football with us, and that's it. It's a
There
non-issue.
are going to be 120 million people watching the Super Bowl on Sunday. Even the championship game at its highest moment gets half of that.
Yeah,
Like,
right.
think about that for a second.
there's no doubt
the
it's an event.
AFC championship game had 50-some-odd million people watching, which is a huge number. That number is going to double for the Super Bowl.
And that's a third of the population of
No
this
doubt.
country.
So there are people coming out of the woodwork to watch a football game. They're not all watching it by themselves, or they're not all watching it together.
Yeah, the numbers don't lie. The
Yes.
numbers tell
I'm
you that they're going to be double the amount of people. So where do they come from? They're not football fans, because otherwise they would have watched the championship game.
I'm not denying that happens. Like, I know, like, my wife's aunt, they'll have, like, they don't watch football year long. They'll have their own thing for the Super Bowl. Like, those people exist. But if you really care about the game, and you were making the statement today that, well, that was the real last Sunday, because I don't, like, to me, you've put yourself in that position to not understand how great Super Bowl Sunday is as a football
It
fan.
is the last great football Sunday because nothing about this upcoming Sunday, nothing about this week, but specifically the Sunday is like the rest of the NFL season. It's completely different. The game is completely different.
No, it's not.
There
It's a
are longer
football game.
breaks.
Yeah.
There are longer halftime shows. Tiki played in one.
The
Tell him.
halftime is 35
By
minutes
the
or
way,
whatever it is.
Yeah, the
But
halftime's an add-on to it that's also makes it even greater.
I got to tell you, the one thing about the Super Bowl, you hope you get a good game. You hope. It's not always the case. Sometimes you get blown. I was there. We got blown out. Like if I wasn't
Yeah, I know.
a Giant fan or whatever, there was no reason to watch the fourth quarter of our Super Bowl. It was over. And so you hope you get a good game. Otherwise, it feels like this buildup was for naught. Like all these stories that you got invested in with the players and their families and their foundations and the people that they become, and then you get to the game and it's like, oh, they stink.
Yeah, and it's funny over
It can be really disappointing as
Over
well.
the last decade and a half, it feels like we've been very lucky where
Yeah.
we've had a lot of really good games
True.
over the years. But early on, like when I was growing up in the mid-'90s, the games tended to suck. And I was also stuck going to Super Bowl parties. I did that for the first third of my life. And one of the things that also drove me nuts was the boxes game. Oh, I got a one. I'm rooting for this. I'm rooting for that. Like, if you end up at a Super Bowl party and you're not as powerful in your family dynamic as Sean is, where I ain't going there. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing that. And you're stuck watching this game with people that didn't watch football all year. Because, again, half the audience that's going to watch this Super Bowl didn't watch a game all season long. Those are just the numbers. You're going to be stuck, A, with people that have no idea what the hell's going on, and then B, caring about the stuff that nobody gives a crap about. And that's the problem. And that's why when I flippantly said a week and a half ago, hey, it's the final Real Football Friday of the year, I meant it. And I saw your eyes get all like, oh, this is unbelievable.
It pisses me off.
I represent the majority of people. Most people listening right now, the good, hard-working American says, yeah, I'm going to watch the Super Bowl. No one's suggesting we aren't. But this is not real football. Last Sunday was real football. The weekend before that, divisional weekend, real football. By the time you get to Sunday at 6:30 on CBS, it's about everything but football. And you're likely stuck with people who don't know the difference between Andy Reid's mustache and Patrick Mahomes. I don't even have an analogy. But I don't know.
Kermit voice.
Kermit voice, yeah.
But it shouldn't be that way. Evan, why can't you go to a house and, hey, the other room will be the non-watchers? Like, there's ways to configure that.
Oh, you think that occurs, by the way?
But I think one of my neighbors told me that occurs, yeah.
Let me hear this straight. So there are people that have Super Bowl parties who say, okay, we got two rooms. We got the watchers, and we got the non-watchers.
There definitely is. You want to have conversations about Martha Stewart's dip? You go in that room. You want to watch the game, and maybe we converse on whatever bets we're making. We watch the game. Like, there should be no excuse. This should be no different than any Sunday that has existed all year watching football. Only it should be better because you should eat more, arguably gamble more on that later, and have a good time and just watch with the people you watch football with all year.
I think that, so I'm looking at the final results. I don't know. I can't even remember back. It's just the thing. It's memorable because you remember who wins, but you don't remember the games. Like, you don't remember how they went. Maybe you can go back like 2 or 3 years.
That's because you're distracted by Aunt Thelma.
There's so many other things going on. Last year's Super Bowl, it was pretty good. The year before that with the Rams and the Bengals, pretty good. The Buccaneers and the Chiefs, that was a blowout. It was 31-9. It was bad. It wasn't a good game. We knew why, because the Kansas City Chiefs line was compromised. The Chiefs and the 49ers, that was actually a good game despite it being an 11-point victory. Then you go back to the Patriots and the Rams.
That's the worst one.
It was one of the worst games I've ever watched. It took me back to 1960. The Eagles and the Patriots, that was a good one.
Classic.
Yep, the Patriots and the Falcons, classic as well. But then you get the Broncos, the Levi Stadium.
Yeah,
the Broncos, the Panthers, where Cam Newton didn't even want to dive on the loose fumble.
Yeah. No, sometimes you get duds, Tiki, there's no doubt.
And then you go to Phoenix, the Patriots and the Seahawks, classic as well, obviously. Then you get to the MetLife one. With the safety, right? Yeah. And then the blowout of the Denver Broncos by the Seattle Seahawks. Some of these games just aren't really good.
And look, by the way,
and it's all build up, and the stadium's full of non-fans.
Well, by the way, and I'm glad you said that. I know when I say that it would be better if it was in a home stadium, a real home stadium, that could never happen. I acknowledge that. This is a week, you go to a specific city, it's all about the parties. I know that would never happen. But two things can be true at the same time. Wouldn't a championship game be better if it was actually in the stadium of one of the two teams? Instead of going to an antiseptic place, you got people shipped over on planes. Like, it's different. It's not the same. No, me to death, but I'm right, and you know it.
Do we need to remember the Indianapolis Colts beating the Chicago Bears in the Dolphin Stadium when it was pouring rain? And there was, what was the capacity? 70-something thousand? It was probably 28,000 people in the stadium. I mean, it was bad, dude.
No, look, I get all that happens, but I've been to enough of these Super Bowl weeks. I love football so much that I love that it's a celebration game. No. I love hearing the memories, and I love that fans travel in. This might be their one time in their life they do this. I get that it's not 80,000 Packer fans at a Packer game going nuts, but it's
wouldn't
okay.
Wouldn't it be better if there were 50,000 49er fans and 40,000 Kansas City Chiefs fans?
Sure it would be. And if they didn't price somebody out, you could always make something better, but that doesn't mean what we're about to watch Sunday sucks.
It's just not as good as what we watched a week and a half ago. And the truth is, don't hide under the banner of I'm a real football fan. I appreciate it. No, if anything, it makes you fugazi.
It doesn't make me
It
fugazi.
makes you fit in with Bertha. That's what it does.
You're cheering for a team that you will never cheer for again.
I'm not. That's the other thing too. I'm not cheering for a team necessarily.
You just watching?
Well, I'll cheer for wherever my money is. Now, that's a separate thing. Not everybody gambles on all that. But no, I'm going to sit down as a football fan. I'm going to have a couple beers. I'm going to chow down on wings. And I'm going to celebrate the end of the best sport in the world season like I do every year, and then cry on Monday that it's a long time between here and the draft, and Tiki's going to be right about the Giants.
A week and a half ago on Sunday night when we had the AFC title game followed by the NFC title game, that's when I cheered the end of football. That's when I had the cheers. I had a glass of wine and said that was a fun season. Didn't go the way I wanted, obviously, as a Jet fan, but that was a fun season. What happens in 2 weeks, that's a sideshow. What happens in 2 weeks, that's like a vaudeville act. What happens in 2 weeks, that is nothing
So when
like what we watched for the first 19 weeks of this football
So
season.
when Travis Kelce breaks a tackle and sprints for 10 yards, that doesn't count the same as it did last week
It's
for you?
great in moments, and then I'm interrupted by commercials. Basically, the Super Bowl is a vaudeville act with a football game mixed in. That's what it is.
By the way, it's about time you were interrupted with commercials. Me and Tiki are sick of it around here.
What did Scott Hansen say last week, or the championship weekend? He's like, leading into the Super Bowl, we're going to be, whatever, the next 3 hours of interrupted football.
It's a good line.
It was a great line.
It's a good line. We'll get your calls coming up. I do think that most people agree with me. Like, we're going to watch the Super Bowl, obviously, but football season really ended a week and a half ago. Toll-free numbers 877-337-6666.